I Am Woman, Hear Me Snore is technically the 11th episode of the second season of Good Advice. This is directed by Ted Bessell, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And the reason I say technically is because it actually never aired. And that made sense, because when I talk about the narrative, you'll realise that if you've seen the other episodes or if you've been following these discussions, that Henriette was already in the show, but this is the episode where she's introduced. So I was very confused. And then I went onto Wikipedia to see if there was any information, and this is one of 3 episodes that didn't air. There were only 2 other episodes left for me to watch. Neither of them aired, so I don't know what to expect there. I don't know why this didn't air, but nevertheless, that's the information. So that makes sense as to why it seemed out of sync. It starts off with Susan, as always, with patients. They're arguing about coffee. A nice way to start things off. The rest of the episode is actually about Susan's personal life. And now that she just lives alone with Michael, their time is a little more strained because her husband is obviously not there to help out. And Michael is not happy about this. Susan has to get him up really early in the morning. It's still dark out, and, well, as he said, he can still taste his dinner from last night, so it's too early for breakfast. The washing machine is broken, but Susan can't get home in time to have it repaired. And then she's in the office or in the building and she falls asleep. And everybody else decides to put her in the elevator. And I was genuinely curious to see how she'd react when she woke up. And I have to say, her entrance was just wonderful. Really thoroughly enjoyed that. The rest of the episode takes place at Susan's house. And what I love about this is that she's interviewing several housekeepers. They all arrive at the same time. They weren't meant to arrive at the same time, but they did. And Michael is ultimately getting to decide who he wants as a housekeeper, because obviously the housekeeper will be there with Michael and spending most of the time with him. And I love that. I think that's so sweet that Susan wanted him involved. Granted, I don't think she should have let him have the final say, but that's ultimately what happens. And the other candidates all seem quite professional. And then there's Henriette. And she has some attitudes that Susan maybe doesn't agree with. She takes a bite of one of the sugarless muffins that Susan has made and then comments that it tastes like dirt. And Michael is really liking Henriette. And obviously we know, having seen the other episodes, that Henriette ultimately becomes Susan's housekeeper. And I thought it was a really fun introduction. I will say the character is a lot stronger in this episode than she is in any other episode. I feel like her personality, I don't want to necessarily say rubs Susan up the wrong way. That might be a little bit too strong, but she's not Susan's kind of person. Whereas in every other episode, I haven't had that impression. So maybe, well, that's probably not why they didn't air this episode. There probably was a scheduling reason. I don't know if anybody can confirm. Please feel free to share that information. But either way, I do feel like her introduction is brilliant, but quite different to the Henriette we have of other episodes. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I thought it was a really great way to introduce the character, and she's really likable, and I really enjoyed it, and I had a lot of fun with the story, and it's a shame that it didn't air, but I'm thankful that I have access to it now. So it's a really enjoyable episode. I thought it was very well done, and I'm slightly nervous about the other episodes because I don't really know what to expect, and honestly, I'll be upset when it's over because I've really thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm actually going to do the reviews every 2 weeks now, as I don't want it to end rather than every week. So I'll talk about those when we get there. And for now, I can say I Am Woman, Hear Me Snore is a really enjoyable episode. Definitely makes sense now why Henriette was introduced in this one since it unaired. I was very confused because I didn't realise Henriette was actually in the episode. I had assumed maybe when I was watching it that maybe she'd left. Maybe that was just a character who had been written out for whatever reason, and then Susan needed another housekeeper. And then when Susan opened the door, it was Henriette. I became very, very confused, and that's when I went to Wikipedia and learned that it's unaired. I'd love to know why. If anybody has any information, please, please, please let me know. I feel like I need to know more than is necessary. But really enjoyed it. Really good episode. Looking forward to the final 2.